Hi, welcome back to Jackie's Hand of Horror. Today we're talking about badass women in history. And I've got with me my gang of badass women. I have Tanya. Hey, Tanya.
Hello.
Rachel.
Hey, Jackie and everyone.
And we've got Nudia today, too.
Hello, everybody.
So, we're going to start today with our thumbs up movie reviews. And there's a movie I just had to review. And honestly, I cheated because I saw the movie before I watched the trailer. And our job here is to review on trailers. But I did watch it today. And this is for Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I'll let you all start. Have you seen that trailer? And what do you think?
Well, I never saw I've seen the trailer. I haven't seen the film yet, but I've been wanting to see the film, and seeing the trailer only makes me want to see it so much more. It looks really interesting, and the performances look great, and I'm so excited to see this film at some point.
So when we were watching this trailer, when I was watching it, I was wondering if this is a new trailer that they made after the Oscars. Do you know what I mean? Because it so totally features Frances McDormand, the badass woman in question, I assume, that right. I feel like they recut a new trailer to be like, Frances McDormand is in this film. See how awesome she is?
I think it is. This isn't the trailer I remember seeing when I originally wanted to see the film. I just kept missing it. But yeah, this is a new trailer for me.
Yeah.
Nudia?
Well, in this case, I would agree with Ray. I think it's a new trailer after Frances McDormand getting the Oscar. And is putting her as the badass woman in the movie, which is great. I mean, I haven't seen the movie. I have seen the trailer, and actually, I have seen another trailer. So it's portraying her as the main character of the movie, and is great, and her performance is
that's true. You know, when I was watching the trailer, I wasn't thinking that because I have seen the film, and I thought how beautifully the trailer pulled out some of the absolute best shots and scenes and interactions, and so now it makes even more sense how they made such a brilliant trailer. But it is. I would recommend this film to anybody. Yes. It's a really good film, and so I hope everybody can go see it.
So
I've been wanting to see it, so this only makes me want to see it more.
So I go back and forth on whether I want to see it or not. I would say this trailer taken by itself would make me want to see the movie. But the opinions of friends who have seen the movie makes me not want to see it. So
okay.
I'll probably catch it on cable some night. Maybe. I'll probably just wander into it, because I will also add, as a native of Missouri, this film was not shot in Missouri, which you could actually get a good glimpse of in this trailer.
Okay.
There are
From
no
a
hills that
technical
look like that in Missouri.
Yeah.
Just so's you know.
Got it.
From my native tourism standpoint.
But I also listened or heard about that being based in maybe not exactly the whole real story, but real facts of a story that actually happened. Is that correct? Or I am misinformed?
I haven't either. It could be fake news.
Yeah, that's not something I've ever heard. I'm not sure.
Well,
any mother, I would say, would do something similar.
Yeah, I think a lot of people could relate to, those feelings and wanting to fight back. Yeah. Well, yeah. And that's our review on the trailer to Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. The next movie we're going to talk about for badass women in history is Girl Fight, which was filmed in the year 2000 and stars Michelle Rodriguez. I have not seen this film. My favorite line in the trailer was when she's looking all smoldery and says, "I didn't make the cheerleading team," or something. And it's a story about a young woman who has a pretty rough upbringing, and she's a real fighter and gets in trouble all the time, not doing good in school. And she wanders into a boxing club and is smitten and becomes a boxer. So what do you all think of it?
This is another film that I have been wanting to see since it came out, since seeing the trailer a long time ago, and never have got to. There's just so many movies I'm always constantly watching movies. I don't have time to see all the ones I want to. And again, revisiting the trailer, I've seen this trailer before, just kind of reawakens my interest in the film, and I definitely want to see it.
This trailer made me want to go out and punch everything, basically, in a good way, I think. But yeah, especially when in the middle when she's getting all the girls can't fight and blah, 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 blah. It's like I just want to go hit every man I see.
Well, definitely.
There are no men around right now, so that's probably good for everyone.
I agree. And actually, definitely is something that shows how badass she is, because she goes even against male opinions on what she wants to do.
Yep.
I liked 2 things that I saw in the trailer. When she goes and tells the trainer, I want you to train me to be a boxer. And the other guy says, I don't think you can be a boxer. And she turns and says, I am not talking to you. I like that one.
That was awesome.
And when she goes to the training place, and she goes to the gym, and she punches a guy saying something, I think defending his brother or something like that.
Yeah.
She punches the boxer, the guy. So it is when the trainer sees, okay, you have potential. I want to train you now. Right? So I really liked it. And I think I haven't seen the movie.
I want to see it. I really want to see it now. I hadn't even heard of it before, so I'm really glad that Tanya mentioned it.
I mean, this 2 things about this that stood out to me. One, putting my marketer hat on. In this trailer, they do such a really awesome job of writing the line between this is a boxing movie where we're beating the crap out of people, and this is also kind of a chick flick in the sense that a woman is going on an emotional journey and like discovering herself. You know what I mean? Like I hate dismissing that as chick flick. That's in quotes. That's not my term, but like I really thought they did a good job of making this movie look like it would appeal to 2 very different groups of people.
Yeah, I saw it go that way. The little bit of romance at first, I went, oh man, it's not going to turn into some kissy face movie, But, well, yeah, perfect.
And then she punches him. Yeah. It's like, I love you, but I have to win. Boom! Yeah.
Well, what I also liked, what I also liked is that it's portraying, maybe not as a chick flick, but maybe it's portraying a woman's strength physically, mentally, emotionally. That's the cool part of it. That's what I'm saying. It's really worth to see.
Yes.
Yes. And she's really young. I mean, she's portraying a teenager in high school, and she's with a very strong will, and she's done and set on being a boxer.
Man, I think this episode's going to be a little longer today. We have picked a whole subject that we all can relate to. Badass women. Well, let's move on. We got to get on to our next. Our forefinger ideas. So we've all agreed that that we're schizophrenic. No, we've all agreed that we like girl fight and we want to see it. So today on Jackie's Hand of Horror, for our forefinger do-it-yourself ideas that we also call the dark arts. Today we're talking about ways in which to be a more badass woman. And I literally found an article in Thought Catalog about that subject. The first thing they say is you've got to think about yourself. And that makes a lot of sense because I'm finding that I get so damn busy and I'm thinking about everybody else that I go by the wayside, and I think we all have that problem sometimes. The second one is to be tough, and I think I'm just gonna go through this list here, and then we'll talk about it. So number 1 is to think about yourself. Number 2 is to be tough. 3, to be on your grind, which is interesting. It means work hard, work harder than you ever have, which kind of goes against number 1. So I don't know who wrote this. I'm going to have to go back and see. Number 4, take risks. Be bold is number 5. Number 6, ask for what you want. I agree. 7, be healthy. 8, have good friendships. And 9, know your worth. Those are all good. What do y'all think? Oh, yes.
I would add a number 10, learn to stop apologizing. I find as a woman that's just a lot of apologizing, just kind of for existing on some level if you boil it all down.
I know,
but I know way more women
that way
are.
as well.
I mean, yeah, I don't know any men who. I know men who do it too, but I feel like I know way more women who do it.
Or more women feel like that's how you're supposed to.
Like when I get mad at someone, I apologize
situation.
to them, which is kind of weird. Honestly, I've yelled at them and I have a reason. Yeah, when I get mad at them, I apologize to them, like legitimately mad, like because they've done something annoying.
I do
apologize to them for being mad at them.
What do you think, Nuria?
I would add also, I'm sorry, it's because I was making notes in that regard, actually. And I would add also allow yourself to...
Yeah, we're hard on ourselves.
Make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And forgive yourself for making those mistakes. Because sometimes it's something that you are dragging in your whole present, and that's determining your future. So if you consider yourself that you failed, even to yourself, but you don't forgive yourself,
right?
You will continue dragging that emotion, during time,
because
bring it into the future.
You can't move forward. I mean, if you're not willing to take risks, then you can't move forward. And if you're going to take risks, you're going to make mistakes. And so it's just kind of like you can't move forward if you don't fail sometimes, and you can't beat yourself up for that.
And in this regard, actually, I saw a similar list of topics saying how to be not necessarily a badass woman, but it was interesting, although it was in Spanish, but it could be translated as allow yourself to fail, allow yourself to dislike things, allow yourself to try new things, allow yourself to travel, allow yourself to change career, allow yourself to maybe start a new relationship or stop a current relationship that is not bringing you happiness or something. Allow yourself. And he kept saying, allow yourself, allow yourself. And that's a message to women to allow ourselves all these things. I really liked it. I look for it. I'll see if I can find the link. As I said, although it's in Spanish, but maybe in a way we can find the translation into English or something, and we can share it here.
Yeah.
Or there's good old Google Translate.
Oh yeah,
confusing us all since 2003.
Might say something really totally different and confuse us all.
I think that's a good point, though. The forgive yourself. That's something that I've had to learn, kind of lately. Something I've been going through, because I realized I was holding on to things that I felt bad about, like from when I was a toddler and like from kindergarten and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like, that time I told on that kid and I made him feel bad. Like I was hanging on. And I realized how silly that was. It's like, well, I learned from that and I don't do that stuff now. That was my lesson. That was the time I learned, when I made the wrong decision or whatever. And so I had to consciously be like, okay, I'm letting that go now because I don't have to feel guilty about something like that. I'm sure that other person doesn't think about that anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It's the sort of thing that keeps me from going to sleep. Like, it's just, oh God, remember that one time and you totally took that shot wrong and oh God. Yeah. And it's just like, why am I thinking about that now? There's no use.
Time to move on.
Way over.
And ask for what you want. That's number 6. I totally agree with that. Exactly. That's one of the complaints. Men generalize women as a lot of times as saying that women don't say what they want and then they sulk or whatever, and there is some truth in that because we're taught to not ask for what we want and to concede to everybody else, and then we get grumpy about it. Nobody knows why, and it's this horrible never-ending cycle. So just ask for what you want. You don't have to do it in a demanding way. I mean, it's like the next one here, or one of the other ones about having good friendships. If you have good friendships, then you have communication, and you can do that coming from a place of trust.
I do like the know your worth. And on that, I insist. Recently, I have been telling that to my family, my sister, my mom, everybody. You don't have a worth because of, in this case, the person you are with. Right now, I'm single, and I allow myself to be alone. And because of that, it's not that I am sad or miserable or my worth is less as a human, etc. And sometimes I even get these comments of saying, "Oh, you are a brave woman, Nuria. You are very strong. The way that you are portraying that is really interesting." So I would say, yeah, let's be badass with yourself.
Yes.
Love yourself and spend time with yourself. That's not bad. And it's on the contrary. I think it's as long as you are good and well and you don't hurt anybody, you don't need to be with someone else to have a worth in life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well said. Yes. Well said. Anybody else? Yeah. And it's healthy. Anybody have any closing words on this?
Well, I think one that rings true for me in this list is to take risks. And I just want to add, reasonable risks. Of course, not anything, life-threatening or anything like that, or something that's going to cause great embarrassment. But definitely a reasonable risk. And some people need to take more baby steps than other people. But I've found that the things that I'm most afraid to try or to do, but that I want to, have been the things that I've started to, okay, that's what I actually need to do, because then I end up getting the biggest payoff from those type of things. So if it makes me a little nervous, I usually know, well, it's because I really care about this. And so that means it's important enough to do it, to go for it. So I think that's very important.
That's an excellent point, because people stop because they get scared, and it's pushing that sense of being scared, and going beyond that is what makes you grow.
I would say I also, the know your own worth resonates with me, and I think part of that in my head is attaching to the many ladies on the internet I've seen recently who are like practicing taking up their space on the sidewalk, and their reflections of how hard that is, how hard it is to just, not hog the sidewalk. Take your half of the sidewalk. Like, look at the sidewalk and say, this is my half. This is the space I'm allowed to move in, and not move just because a man walking in the other direction is overlapping into your part of the sidewalk. And I think it's just, that's the basic worth. Like that's not even getting crazy. That's, I am a human and I am allowed to take up as much space as I take up. I don't have to cringe way over here or walk in the grass easement just because a dude is walking in the damn middle of the sidewalk and won't move,
That's something I've always noticed, living in the city, walking around, that men, and of course it's like not all men, but it's a number of men have this attitude that they don't care how much space they take up, and whether that be on the bus or sitting next to you or walking down the street. But I've never had that with a woman. I've been, where men, generously move out of whoever's way too. But women always, that I've noticed just in my own experiences, always, make room for the other person. And men probably, I don't know, like 65% of the time make room.
Yeah.
The other part of the time, they just expect you to walk out of your way, or they're going to hit you. I've had men just walk right into me.
Well, I would say it's kind of like gender nature. We are more caring, and we don't mind sharing space. We don't mind moving to a side or allowing someone else to have their own space or any other consideration to any other human being. Women, men, younger, older. So
I mean, I
that's
agree
part
that
of
sharing
our
is part of our
gender
strength, but
nature, and
I
I
think when
love
we
it.
push it so
And I would
far
say it's
into
part of
not
our
even
strength.
taking our own
No,
space,
yes,
that's part of like
definitely.
not
Yeah,
knowing
if
our
you
own
put
worth. So yeah, there's like a
if you put
balance
yourself aside, that's another thing. But respecting your own
yeah.
place and allowing someone
too.
else to share that place, let's say, that's part of the strength
Mm-hmm.
that we can demonstrate.
Well, boy, we're going through some amazing times now where people are the awareness and the possibilities, the opportunities for people to communicate and maybe just become a little more aware of these differences and open up more. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what I hope for. Maybe I'm too old, but I don't know.
Last words for the be tough. On the be tough, it says be mentally and physically strong, and it says that you have to have your mind as an athlete. Um, I suggest people who is listening, and mainly women, right? Because we're talking about badass women. Um, watch these motivational videos of athletes that they give the extra effort to compile whatever they have made their minds on, the goals that they are looking for. That's great. I think that's very helpful. And yes, I do suggest women to be not only mentally, emotionally strong, physically as well, and not necessarily be a girl fight or huge muscles in your arms, but at least have a good condition. Not necessarily be thin or fitted or something, but be healthy with yourself. That is going to be bringing more strength to you, and maybe even long life, which I desire to everybody.
Yeah. Yes. Well, good one today. That was great. So we're going to move on now to our next segment. On Jackie's Hand of Horror episode today, Badass Women in History, this is our middle finger interview. And today we're actually going to interview ourselves, me and my guest hosts, Rachel and Tanya and Nuria. Because, we've talked about it and there's so many women that we could interview, but the truth is we're pretty badass ourselves. So I'm going to get this part started off today talking about myself because, that's one of the things badass women do is they stand up and they acknowledge the things that they've done and they want to tell people about it. So, in the last 3 years, I've done a lot of things. I've written a book, Growing Up with Mono's Hands of Fate. And right on the heels of that getting published, Rachel and Tanya and I started writing a script, and we did a Kickstarter and got Joe Sherlock on board. And we wrote a film and a screenplay, and we made a movie, which is premiering like pretty much any time now, because I'm not exactly sure what day this episode is airing. Oh, well, yes, I am, on the 19th. So we will be premiering at Crypticon Seattle on May 4th. What else have I done? Right now, I am in the process of working on a comic book with Pulsar Entertainment and a live web series called Mono's The Debbie Chronicles, where I get to kick some ass after 52 years after being taken by that crazy cult at the Valley Lodge. But there's so many things that I believe in, and the only reason that I got to where I am is for some of these things. And I wrote down several of them. The three big things that get me moving forward all the time is that when I'm accountable to other people, it keeps me on track. And the way that I find people to be accountable with is that I adopted the idea a few years ago that the world is my playground, and I invite people to come play with me. Because I've always looked at the world as a greater good thing, I don't want to move forward unless other people are moving with me, because it's just no fun to be alone. And then the last thing, which is actually the first thing, was that I learned when I was about 12 years old, when people said, "What do you want to do with your life?" And I said, "I want to be an artist." And they go, "Well, that's cute, honey, but what do you want to do?" And I remember thinking real clear, screaming inside my head, "I'll show you." And so I have. And I'm going to pass this on now to whoever of my hosts wants to go next. And after we've all talked a little bit, then we'll talk together. Who's next? Great, Tanya.
I can go next. One thing that I want to add to what you're saying, I want to say for each of us here, I think that especially in this country, it's really, really difficult to be an artist. It's difficult to be a working artist, to make money that way, especially if you're just making money that way. And also to be taken seriously unless you already are successful. So if you haven't become super successful making a ton of money yet, it's hard to be taken seriously, I think, as an artist. So for the fact that we're all doing those things and we don't, there's not really a set path for most artistic disciplines. And I think it's much harder than just finding, like a regular type of 9-to-5, for lack of a better way to put it, job. So I think that's very difficult, and it's very, it take a little bit of courage to do that.
Totally.
Yeah. So I think in that way, each of us is, being brave and being a little badass just to be an artist in this country. And I mean, in other countries sometimes too, but definitely in this country, there is that problem. I think that there's a not true artistic path.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about you? What's your path, Tanya?
Well, I remember, when I was little, I was about 5 years old, and I remember thinking, when I grow up, I'm going to be either an actress or a singer. That's what I thought. That's how I put it. And as now that I'm an adult, I realize it's more, I want to be involved in music, and I want to be involved in filmmaking, and that's really important to me. The creative aspect of the creation of it, the direction of it, and the storytelling aspect are really important to me as well, which I didn't quite understand in those terms when I was little, but I understand that I wanted to do something, in the artistic performance area. And when I was in about 3rd grade, I wrote this tiny little play that I had cast kids on the playground. It was a musical too. It had songs in it. And I made songs and choreography. We made this little play on the playground, and then we performed it for our teacher. And so that tells you everything you need to know about me. But and it was called Jungle Fever. But it was not. But it meant, I love the jungle. It was all about these girls that love living in the jungle.
Wow, cool.
Yeah. So that was kind of my first project, and but yeah, it took me a long time to kind of get there. I was always very, very shy as a kid, and it was really hard for me. I was very shy, very timid. It was hard for me to ask for things I wanted, or to speak up, in class or even in social situations where I wasn't completely comfortable with everybody present. So it was really hard for me to actually get anywhere. And that was one of the things I had to get over. And how I got over it was I decided I wanted to go to film school, and I did. I went to film and video production technical program at Seattle Central Community College. And in those classes, I realized that I was good at film and video production. And it was just something I really enjoyed. It was something I could just do all day long. And it was something that I was good at. My results were what I envisioned in my head. And so I started getting confidence that way. And that was one of the ways that I was able to kind of overcome my shyness, overcome my fear of asking for things I wanted, because I wanted them so badly. In that program, I actually, we had a class group project where every single person in class took on a role. And you had to write down like 3 roles that you were interested in and then turn that into the teacher, and he picked. So he handpicked everybody in every different position and role. And I remember thinking at that time, like the person I used to be, I would have been like, oh, I'm not good enough to be director, even though that's the thing I kind of want. I should put down, something else like art department or maybe producer, because I think I could be a producer, which is like a huge role too. But then I realized, no, what I really want to do is direct this. And it was like kind of scary for me because it was a risk, and it was like being in charge of the whole production. And that was something I wasn't comfortable with taking on. And, but I wanted it. So that was the very first time in my life that I actually said, I'm going to go for this thing I want that is a thing that's like, I'm out in front of everybody. I'm the lead of everything. And it was scary. But I wrote it down. I was like, okay, the first number one that I want, director.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, I think would be interested in producing as well. And then like art department. And so I turned it in. I was all nervous and everything. And I ended up getting picked to be the director of the class project. And yeah, and then that was like a kind of turning point in my life, because not only was it something I was afraid in that moment, it was something I knew. I finally had gotten to the point where I knew what I wanted in life.
Yay!
And I also was being recognized for something that I could do well. And then we actually did the project and I did well. So that was a huge turning point for me. And from there, I never looked back.
Yeah. 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 We all have those times. We have those moments. Ray, what about you?
Yeah. Well, I'd say if I had to find my origin points for Badassery,
yes,
2 of them come to mind, but I'm gonna start with a footnote the way Tanya did, and say it feels so weird to be talking about myself. Do you know what I mean? Like to be like, yes, I am a badass and here's why. And that just, I told you guys I was going to stand in confidence pose to get ready for this. And that's totally what I've been doing since we started this segment. And yet it still feels weird because I think as women specifically, we are taught not to toot our own horn,
Yes.
Not to go on about ourselves at all. So this feels weird, but good. I'm sure this will be a good for me. Yes. Also, I recommend confidence pose to everyone because it feels awesome.
I when you said it, I stood right up. I'm in confidence pose right now.
Everyone at home, get up and spend the next few minutes in confidence pose, and then we'll do sleeping dog or whatever. I'm not a yoga teacher, obviously. Okay, origins of Badassery. I feel like the first one kind of happened in college because it was really interesting. I mean, I've always been into theater, basically since I knew what it was. I started off in Vacation Bible School. Someone couldn't learn their lines and listen to the jail sketch. And so they put me in as the jailer, and I just loved it. I loved being the jailer. It was a good time. So also I've always liked to play bad guys, apparently. But yeah, in high school, I was, deep into the theater department. That's basically all I did. And then, of course, there's that switch when you get to college, right? You're the senior, you've had all the parts, you've done all the things you wanted to do, and then you get to be a freshman in college. And unless you're just ridiculously awesome, you don't get cast, I mean, and that happened to me, and I was without stuff to do, and I had no theater outlet, and it was just really weird and hard for me. So one of the TAs decided to start this sort of touring production company, like that would go to the lounges in the dorms and do like short plays that his playwriting students were writing, or just other experimental stuff we wanted to do. So he asked if I would help him with that because I was working with Residential Life, which was in charge of the dorms. And I was like, sure. And that process taught me that when you don't have a project, you can produce your own.
Yes. Uh-huh.
there are other ways to go. Like, you don't need someone's permission to do your thing. Which I've tried to keep in mind as much as possible. And, I have to keep reminding myself of it as new things come up that, you have to be like, no, I don't need permission to do the thing. I may need to learn how to do the thing. I may need, advice and help to do the thing. But I don't need someone else to tell me I can do it. So that's, badass origin point 1. My other mutation, and this will probably be obvious to you guys, came from puppets. It's a surprise not. As an actor, I am one of those people that get stuck in their head. So I don't always jump off the cliff the way directors want you to when I'm acting. From the minute I started being a puppeteer, that problem goes away when there's a puppet on my hand. The best example I can give you of this is I never thought I would do solo cabaret pieces where I sang by myself in front of people, but I built a puppet for a cabaret act for a fundraiser thing, and sang a medley that I had just made up about puberty. And I had a second puppet that was made out of a tampon. She was the puberty fairy, and my mom came to that actually, which is hilarious because my mom has not seen a lot of my projects as a grown up since I moved across the country. But it wasn't until I got done with that I was like, holy cow, what did I just do? Okay, sure, yeah. So those are the two things I think that if I am a badass now, that's why.
Yeah, that's awesome. Nudia, how about you, badass?
Well, I don't know if what makes me a badass person is that I am crazy and I don't want to fix it.
Good.
Because since I was a child, I had been considered crazy, very intelligent, very energetic, a little bit enigmatic, mysterious, and even scary. Labeled by my own mother. And it's because I remember,
oh my.
I think I shared this with you, Jackie, once. For Halloween, for example, I remember I was around 5 years old, and I imagined, and the way that I described my costume was, I want to be a tarantula. I want to be a huge tarantula, and I want the paws to come out from my body, all hairy and pointy, and I want to move this way, and I want to scare all the kids. So I was so excited. I didn't get that, right? I think my father thought I was going to get scared by the costume itself, but I didn't get that. So I never forgot about it. And I might get one of these days. Anyways,
Nudia, real quick, I know people who can help you build that. So go.
Oh, great. Oh, we'll talk. We'll see tomorrow.
Yes.
We'll see each other tomorrow. So we'll talk, Jackie. Great. Okay. The other thing, thinking on childhood, that's another thing that comes to my mind as a badass person and maybe even as a scary girl. I wanted to be a doctor. I never got scared by blood. And I remember I was in kindergarten, and at least in Mexico, some nurses or first aid person, I don't remember, they opened our fingers a little bit with a little sharp edge knife or something like that to get our sample to determine our blood type. And I loved it because she took my finger and put it on a little bit cardboard with, I would say, pH chemicals to determine the type of blood. And I saw that and I was like, hey, I can paint with my blood. So I was playing on the cardboard with my blood, and I was like, hey, this is fun. I remember kids fainting, screaming, crying, and I was so happy. I was having so much fun. And even the girl, she was like, okay, little girl, you're a little bit creepy. Just put your blood away. And I was like, okay, this is so fun. So I don't know why I have been that way, but I have been that way since I think I was born. Nothing made me that way. I was born that way. The other thing that, that's my essence. I think something that, for I can be considered a badass person is the following thing. When I was 22, 23, last semester in college. I remember my major is in business administration, minor in HR. So I was taking some occupational medicine for like what is called here workers' comp and OSHA and all that in Mexico as well. And the doctor, my teacher was a doctor. So he taught us a lot of things about medicine, drugs, uses, abuses of it and everything. So I learned a lot. I wanted to be a doctor. That was my side option for a career. But anyways, I didn't get to do that. My brother is, though. I started feeling really bad. I was actually making plays. Now that I heard, it's interesting that all of us have this background in high school and college of acting, directing, producing, anything in that field. I was in the company, in the theater company, the drama company of in college. So we did Cats, the musical, and a guy fell off on one of my foot. So I thought it was one of my toes got broken because I was under a lot of pain. I couldn't handle it. So I went in therapy. They put a cast on my foot. Anyways, I got taken care of and it didn't work. So they dislocated the bone and got a sample of, I don't know, it was gooey stuff, but they took out something in between my bones and sent it to the lab. And then I remember around maybe 2 weeks after that, they called me and they said, okay, we need to talk to you, but bring your parents. And I was like, okay, I'm over 20, but why do I need to bring my parents? So I was like, okay. So we met with the doctor and he said, okay, you are in the final stage of a very bad lupus and you have 3 months to live.
Whoa.
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting. No many people know. Now, maybe listening this podcast, many people will know about my story because I don't talk about it. So I was thinking, I'm sorry, but no. And I turned to heaven, talking to God, and I was like, I'm sorry, I'm rebellious. I am not dying this soon. I'm barely finishing college. I'm barely starting my life. I have a career in front of me in the future. I cannot die right now. And kind of like the heaven answered back to me. And he said, yeah, no, you're not going. You're not living yet. So I was like, okay. So I asked for a second opinion. That doctor was even worse. Mm-hmm. I showed him the results and he didn't even let me sit in front of his desk. He was like, oh yes, indeed, you're going to die. Next. And I was, no. Okay, something is telling me I need a third opinion, and I didn't feel defeated. I fight for it. So I went to a third opinion, and this other doctor, finally, my father found this specialist, rheumatologist. He talked to me. He asked me questions that the other doctors didn't ask me. He even asked me, have you been checked on this and this and this and this? And I was like, no, that doesn't sound familiar. No, yes, no. And he said, okay, I am going to send you for some more blood tests. He pulled a slip and he checked almost all the squares. He was like, check. Get all these checks. I got 6 tubes of blood drawn from me and urine sample and many things. Well, it turned out that I didn't die. Hello.
Yay! Spoiler alert.
And, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. Sorry to disappoint you, but I do have, and I feel it every day in my life. I have rheumatoid arthritis, and it's painful, and it's hurtful, and I have already a little bit of bone degeneration on some of my joints, but that doesn't stop me.
No, you're one of the most going people I know.
I am so energetic. Sometimes I don't even know how I get that energy.
We don't either, Nudia.
You know what, Jackie? Determination and the will of doing things, the will. Maybe my conception of life changed.
Yes.
Being on the edge of death and saying, I have so many things to do, so many experiences in life to share, so many things that I don't even know that I will learn. that I have been fighting my whole life against this illness, even trying not to show it.
Yes, I understand that.
Many
Yeah.
people don't know or didn't know until now.
Right. Right. Yeah. But it can help a lot of people too. I know for me, one of the biggest boosts of my life happened in May of 2001 when a very dear friend of mine died, and she just shouldn't have. She was destined to be a wise woman. She was a healer and um, just this amazing person, and she just, this cancer just was there was just no way it could be fought. And my last conversation with her, I remember telling her very clearly that I would do all I could to live as fully as possible in her honor because she couldn't. And I was just thinking about her the other day. She died at 52 years old, and I realized I was younger than her. She was my older friend, and she died at 52. And dang, I'm like 7 years older than that now. That's something. And so that's my push, and I've seen that like with you, people who have come so close, but they have such a spirit and such happiness in life. And if only the rest of us could catch just a little piece of that without having to come to the edge of things like that. But maybe it's just human nature. I don't know.
Well, yes, I am not thankful that I have this illness. Therefore, I get to be this energetic and all that. Maybe I don't need the illness to be positive and energetic and all that. But yes, it's something that you wish nobody would have to go through.
Yeah. Wow. You guys, I love you all so much, and you're part of my playground. I know that. I mean, between us, we've accomplished so much, and we have so many other really badass women in our circle, and we have some really amazing men too. I'm just so happy to be here and part of this this group, this tribe that we're building. Yay. Well, thanks, y'all. And that's it for today's interview session. And we'll be moving on here to things we love. Well, today on Jackie's Hand of Horror, for our ring finger, these are things that we love them so much that we would do things like bury it in the yard or stalk it on the internet, or we think of a million things that we could do with things that we love. Today, we have each of the four of us have chosen a woman in history that we think is a badass woman, and we're going to each take a couple minutes and talk about the one that we chose. So the one I chose today is a woman who's still living, and her name is Winona Laduke. She's a Native American environmentalist, and I noticed that she and I are just about the same age. We were born just about 6 weeks apart. This woman ran for vice president nominee on the Green Party with the ticket headed by Ralph Nader 2 times, in 1969 and in 2000. She started the Honor the Earth nonprofit to raise awareness not only for Indigenous environmental justice, but she's active in the whole Dakota access pipeline protests. And but this nonprofit organization that she formed, Honor the Earth, also promotes leadership amongst Native American youth. So it tries to build Native American youth to take on these roles. Sacred site protection, renewable energy, buffalo restoration. She's written about, looks like 20, 30 books. I've heard of her, but I just can't believe that I didn't know more about her. She's pretty much just about polar opposite to our current government. So I really think she's a badass, because no matter what, this woman just never gives up. She just keeps going. And I honor that so much. And that's my favorite badass woman right now. How about you, Rachel?
Ooh, okay. For my badass woman of choice, we're going way back in time to the late 17th century, to Miss Julie d'Aubigny, or La Maupin, as she was known professionally. She was awesome. She was a badass because she was raised by a father who trained the swords in Louis XIV's, not trained the pages, excuse me, in Louis XIV's court. And so she learned to sword fight. She was a bisexual, cross-dressing, sword-fighting, opera singing star badass. She's part of why I love her. This is my favorite story about her. She fought a lot of duels. She was a star of the Paris Opera. My favorite story about her is while she was singing opera, a woman that fell in love with her, and it was mutual. And to get the young woman away from La Maupin, her parents put her in a convent. So what did our heroine do? Oh, this is delightful. She entered the convent herself, pretending to be penitent for, her wicked ways and whatnot. And not very long after she was there, one of the older nuns dies. So they take the nun's body, put it in her beloved's bedroom, set the bedroom on fire, and escape. And have an affair for like 3 months on the run, and until she sends the girl back home. But yeah, she was crazy badass. Probably also just awesome. She died very young, but I mean, kind of everyone did back then. So she only lived to be 33 or 37. But in that time, she did more than a lot of people do that live to be like 90. So I'd also like to give a shout out to rejectedprincesses.com, where I got a lot of this info, and which is just chock full of badass women.
Very cool. I like her. Okay, cool. I want to know more. And by the way, to our audience, all of the links to find these people are going to be on our Facebook page, Jackie's Hand of Horror. Nudia, how about you? What did you come up with?
Well, I searched on the internet and I looked for badass women in history because I wanted to come up with a real character in history. And I found Judith. It's a biblical character, and it's the book of Judith is on the Old Testament. She was really badass. She was a widow. Her husband died, and she passed 3 years and 4 months in a room built for herself and wore sackcloth around her waist and dressed in widow's weeds. She fasted every day of her widowhood. She became to be really pretty because of it, and she maintained herself in a very good health and in a very good condition. So she got really strong, and she was able to defeat I think it's an emperor. He is named in the Old Testament. His name is Holofernes or Holofernes. I don't know how it's pronounced. Well, he fell in love with her. She was a widow, but she was really young and pretty, and he tried to take advantage of her by putting her into a sleep with wine, but she knew about that. Long story short, she beheaded him. And if you are interested in learning more about the story, it is very graphic and very well narrated in the Old Testament. So I highly suggest you don't need to go to Google or internet in any way. I can share a link where I found her and the summary of her story. But it's really fascinating the way it is described, real facts and real things, and seriously, in a very bad as maybe even horror side description of the beheading of Holofernes by her alone in his dorm. So seriously, I think I did a good choice by about her or reading about her, and I learned a lot actually.
Yeah, that's a great one. Okay, and okay, let's go to Tanya. What'd you find?
Well, I cheated a little bit. I picked 3 women, but basically I picked the 3 kind of most famous primatologists: Jane Goodall, Diane Fossey, and Brute Galdikas. And they studied primates. Diane Fossey is famous for studying gorillas, and Jane Goodall chimpanzees, Brute Galdikas orangutans. And before them, people didn't really know a lot about primates, and most of them are endangered now. And the areas that these women worked in are areas that are, becoming, deforested, and where there's a lot of danger for ecological damage and just a really great environmental impact. Just for example, at the turn of the century, there were over 1 million chimpanzees alive, and now there's just a little over 300,000. So there's a lot of environmental impact have been going on over the years. And the thing that I think is so amazing about these women is that they each put themselves at great risk. And Diane Fossey, people probably know, was actually murdered while she was out there. And, they were studying in places like Tanzania, the Congo, Rwanda, places that are dangerous. And especially back in the day, in the 60s and whatnot, there's a lot of political strife and a lot of danger there. And these women faced this danger, took a lot of great risks so that they could study these primates, so that we could have better understanding of how they lived, their civilizations, their social groupings, so that we could have a little more, I guess the general population could have a little more empathy and understanding of these animals and understand how closely they are related to us. And these women are responsible for how we know that, the gene closeness to humans and primates, and the social way they behave and the way they learn, how intelligent they are. It's all due to these women and also their predecessor, Dr. Louis Leakey. And these 3 women are kind of known as Leakey's angels. They're kind of known as the 3 women that took up his work when he was done. And the 2 remaining women continue this work today. And also, I think it is difficult to kind of stand up for those who can't have a voice themselves and be compassionate. And it's more brave, I think, to do that than to be a bully or to be negative, tear something down. So I find these women very brave and very badass.
Wow. Yes, absolutely. Love it. Okay, man, what a great episode today. Next segment's going to be Young Aradia, and we thank you so much for being with us for our women. What is this? Thank you for being here for our badass women in history.
Hi, my name's Aradia. Welcome back to Jackie's Hand of Horror.
Yay. Thanks, honey. Well, today we're talking about badass women, and we've already discussed that you know what badass means.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you were telling me about this movie that you saw.
Yeah, it's called Princess Mononoke, but it's mostly about a prince. It's mostly about a prince.
Really? It's not funny, but it's called Princess Mononoke.
Yeah, it's weird.
Okay. Well, what about Princess Mononoke makes her strong?
She got adopted by this wolf, and she wants to cut someone's throat.
She wants to cut someone's throat? Why?
Because they were mean and shot the mom in the neck, but it's not that easy to kill a god.
Oh, that's for sure. So who's the god?
There's 3 gods that talked about pig. No,
like with tusks?
A boar.
Okay.
A boar, a white boar that's, a god. The wolf, god wolf that I'm gonna be talking about, and then the forest spirit.
Okay. Well, tell me about the wolf.
Well, she adopted this girl, and her name's Sun.
Okay.
And Sun's technically, the daughter of the wolf god.
Sun is technically the daughter of the wolf god.
Yeah.
But that's different from Princess Mononoke. So does she help Princess Mononoke do something besides cut somebody's throat?
No. She doesn't help at all.
Oh. Does Princess Mononoke cut somebody's throat?
No.
No.
But she tries. She takes off her necklace that has a crystal dagger and tries stabbing her another girl's throat that's really mean and shot her mom in the throat.
Wow. Well, at this point I am absolutely, completely confused, but that's okay because that's part of your job here on Jackie's Hand of Horror.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's about as far as we can get with this one today.
Yeah.
But I sure love hearing your point of view. Okay, honey. Well, let's sign off and say thanks for being here today.
Thank you for being here on Jackie's Hand of Horror.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Jackie's Hand of Horror. For links and more information on the fun and sometimes horrible things we discuss, please visit us on Facebook at Jackie's Hand of Horror, and that's Jackie with an EY. Thanks again for listening today, and special thanks to the great people who come together to make this podcast possible. My co-host, Tanya Atomic and Rachel Jackson, and also Greg Talley, Ron McAdams, Natalie Ryan, and the rest of the crew at the Revival League podcast. Join us again in 2 weeks for another Jackie's Hand of Horror